At 16 years old, Ada was sleeping on a wooden bench inside a Nigerian police station. No food, no family, mosquitoes feeding on her skin through the night. The woman who put her there was her own cousin. Years later, Ada would make herself a promise after surviving that house. She would never bring a child into this world unless she alone could care for them. She was the seventh child in a family of 12. 3 boys, 7 girls. One mother holding all of them together with bare hands and sheer will. Her father had once been a man of wealth. He had bosses running on the road, money sitting in a bank, a home that meant something. He was Catholic, devoted, the kind of man who believed children were a blessing and collected them accordingly. Then, one ordinary day, everything fell apart at the same time. Both of his bosses got into accidents on the same day. The same day, their houses caught fire. Nothing survived. Not the furnitures, not the documents, not the thing that holds the story of who they had been. And the bank where he had kept his savings, Savannah Bank, collapsed and swallowed everything that remained. Just like that, a family that had known comfort woke up knowing hunger. By the time our girl was 9 years old, a family of 12 was living inside one room and a parlor. They ate 1 meal a day. Some days, they did not know if tomorrow would bring anything at all. She learned early what it meant to go to sleep wondering. She learned early what hunger sounds like when it's live in a house full of people who are too tired to talk about it. And then the cousin came. She was not a stranger. She was blood. She was the kind of woman who arrived with biscuit in her hands and a wide smile, and every child in that compound ran towards her because she felt like warmth. She was married, living in another state, and she came to visit her mother from time to time. Whenever she came, she bought biscuits for the children. She was generous. She was bright. She made you feel like you mattered. The little girl attached herself to this woman completely. So one visit, when the cousin was about to leave and the little girl cried because she did not want her to go, the cousin made a promise. She said, "The next time I come, I will take you with me." That child packed her bag the same day. She did not wait to be told twice. She packed and she sat and she waited, because when you are 9 years old and life has been pressing down on you for as long as you can remember, a promise from a warm woman with biscuits feels like everything changing. The cousin came back. She kept the promise. The little girl left with her, bright-eyed, 10 years old now, stepping into what she believed was a better life. She had no idea what she was walking into. The first few months were fine. New place, new school, new beginning. But slowly, steadily, the warmth that had drawn her in began to disappear. The smile thinned out. The voice that had once been soft started to carry edges, and the little girl began to feel something she could not yet name. Then the cousin said it out loud. She told her that the only reason she had been treating her so well was because someone had told her that doing good deeds would move God to bless her with a baby girl. She had 4 boys and she wanted a daughter. Ada was not family to her. Ada was a strategy. That was the moment the mask came off, completely, and never went back. The cousin had a husband who was a school teacher, quiet and decent, but the cousin was the one with the money. She was a tailor, well known and well paid, and she moved through her marriage with the confidence of someone who knew she held the financial power. She did what she wanted, and what she wanted was a house that ran itself while she focused on her business. That is what the little girl became. She woke up every morning at 4 a.m. 4 in the morning, while the rest of the house slept. She was already moving. She swept and mopped the entire house. By 6, she was getting the children ready for school, preparing their breakfast, making sure every child in that house was fed and dressed before they walk out the door. By 7, she was standing in the staff quarters compound where they lived, holding a tray of bread, hawking it to the neighbors in the morning heat before she could even think about going to school herself. She was 10 years old. She cooked every meal in that house. She washed every piece of clothing, including the cousins' used menstrual clothes because the cousin did not use pads. She looked after the babies. When the cousin started building her own business, the little girl fetched water for the bricklayers every day. During the festival season, she worked in the tailor's shop along the cousin until daybreak, sewing and cutting and packaging while other children were sleeping. And when she cooked the food and served every person in that house, she was not allowed to serve herself. She would go to sleep hungry. Night after night, in a house her hands had kept, her stomach empty while the people she served rested comfortably. The cousin's husband once complained to his wife about it. Said he had not married the girl, that the way she served him felt like more than it should be. The cousin ignored him. The labor was not the worst of it. One day, one of the cousin's sons stole money from the house. The cousin did not discipline her son. She came for the little girl instead. She tore her clothes. She made her do picking needles, picking up a pin with her toe over and over while the cousin stood over her. Then she took an electric wire cable and used it on her body, leaving marks that would take time to fade. On another occasion, she tied the girl's hand, then took pepper and rubbed it on her most private places, on the tender part of her body that should never have been touched in anger. She was a child, and no one in that house stopped it. Here is what the cousin could not account for, and what makes the story different from just a story of suffering. The girl was exceptional. She dropped her 2 classes below where she had been, putting her in primary 2 when she had already been in primary 4. Whether it was to humiliate her or simply because she did not care enough to find out, it did not matter. The little girl sat in that class and topped it. Every single term she came first. She would collect her report card and run home holding it against her chest, heart full, ready for someone to see her. The cousin would look past her like she was not there. The husband would say, "Well done, you tried, keep it up." 4 words. That was all she had, but she held on to them. By primary 6, her teachers recognized what they had in her and gave her the position of head girl. A child carrying all that weight, and still her teachers saw something worth crowning. The cousin found out and went straight to her friend at school. She told her to have the position removed, gave some excuses about Ada arriving late sometimes. The position was stripped and handed to someone else. Ada was given labor prefect instead. But even that was not enough for the cousin. One Friday afternoon after the school assembly, Ada and a group of her friends were called out in front of the entire students' body. The cousin's friends stood up and accused these girls publicly of something deeply shameful, something that had never happened, something designed to destroy their reputation in front of every pair they had. They were brought to the middle of the field. A table was placed there. They were made to lie down flat while water was poured on them, and they were flogged with a koboko, one stroke after another, while the other students watched. Junior students, senior students, teachers standing by while children were humiliated in the open. Ada fainted in the middle of it. When she came back to herself, students were following her home, singing, laughing at her. She could not walk into the house when she got there. She stood outside for hours, unable to move, unable to think, just standing in the shame of what had been done to her in public. That night, alone with everything inside her, she thought about dying. She was a child and she thought about whether she wanted to keep going. She did not know what would actually end a life, so she sat there and ate onions, thinking maybe enough of them would do something. She survived the onions. She survived that night, not because anyone saved her, because she was made of something the cousin had been trying to find and destroy for years and simply could not locate. After 6 years of all this, the cousin finally got her baby girl. The thing she had been using Ada to pray toward had arrived. The transaction in her mind was complete. During the naming ceremony, family gathered from different places, and Ada saw a window. She wrote a letter, every truth she had been holding for 6 years, pressed into pages and handed to a relative who was traveling back home. She asked him to put it in her mom's hand. He promised he would. The letter came back to the cousin. She stood in front of Ada with it and said, "Your mother gave this to me. She trusts me. She would never believe anything you say over what she knows of me." The beating that followed was the worst in 6 years. Not long after, the cousin decided to bring Ada and the children home for a visit. That was when Ada's sibling finally saw her properly for the first time in years. They saw how she flinched when someone raised their voice near her. They saw that all her clothes were oversized, worn-out things the cousin had passed down to her. They saw what 6 years has done to the posture and spirits of their sister. Her older sisters, working women by then, went and bought her things: new clothes, earrings, small dignities. When Ada returned to the cousin state, the cousin burnt everything. Ada made a decision. On a Tuesday night when the ninth bus ran, she did not go to the cousin's house when she arrived. She went to her friend's house instead, a girl she had known since primary school, who had been there through all of it, whose mother opened her door and understood without being told everything that needed to be said. They tried to gather together to go and appeal to the cousin, to ask her permission for Ada to stay a few days before returning home to her parents. The cousin threatened to have the friend's mother arrested for harboring her. Ada moved to another friend's place, staying with the friend's older brother to avoid getting the family involved. The last 4 days before she stepped outside one afternoon and ran directly into the cousin's friend on the street, the woman smiled. Ada greeted her, and before she could take another step, the police arrived. They took her to the station. They arrested her friend's brother. They arrested her friends. Both of them taken in because they had sheltered a running girl from someone who had wire cabled her and rubbed pepper on her body and stolen 6 years of her childhood. And Ada sat at the station. No food for over a week. The cousin did not come, did not send food, did not check. She told the police she was concerned the friend's brother might have been taking advantage of Ada and she needed to be held until it could be confirmed. That was the story she used to keep a 16-year-old girl in a police station in the dark while mosquito fed on her through the night. Her friends, the one who had just been arrested for helping her, still found a way to send food to the station every day. One of them brought a large bed sheet so the mosquito would not eat her completely. When Ada's period started, a police officer noticed. He called the cousin. He told her to come and take her girl. He was angry. He said her whole reason for keeping Ada there had been disproven and she needed to come now. The cousin sent her church assistant pastor. Ada arrived back at the house to find the cousin's mother-in-law sitting there, an older woman, someone who had known this family for a long time. She looked at Ada and she wept. She held her and she prayed over her and she wept, the way people weep when they see something that should not have been allowed to happen. That night, the cousin's husband came to Ada quietly. His wife had traveled to Cotonou for business. He told Ada to pack her things. He said by 4 in the morning she would be leaving. Before she walked out, he pressed her primary school certificate into her hands. He said, "You will be needing this." She walked out of that house at 16 with one document and 6 years of surviving what should have finished her. She made a vow that morning on her way to the park. She said she would never bring a child into this world that she alone could not care for. Not from bitterness, from knowledge. from understanding in her body what it costs a child to be dependent on someone who does not love them. The cousin had wanted a tool. Instead, without knowing it, she had spent 6 years building someone who could cook a full meal at 9, who could top a class she had been placed 2 years below, who could survive a public flogging and a police station and a pepper on her skin and still walk out upright with her certificate in her hand. She wanted a servant. What she created was someone the world could not break. If this story sat with you tonight, drop a candle in the comments. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. You never know whose night you might change.